What if Ned Stark never learned Joffrey wasn't Robert's son? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Cersei taps her foot impatiently as she stands in her chambers, waiting for Grandmaster PYcelle to show up. She is far from a patient woman and half expects to hear that old fool had died climbing up the stairs. As she waits for him to show up or the news to arrive, she begins to contemplate her plans. Things were getting heated in the capital, even before the arrival of Ned Stark. Already she had heard that Jon Arryn had been sticking his nose where it did not belong by taking a closer look at Joffrey's parentage. How lucky it was that the old man died before anything could come of it. However, that still left Stannis, who was helping him. Yet the middle Baratheon had mysteriously left before Ned Stark showed up. Perhaps the best for both of them. It would be rather suspicious if two members of the small council met with an unfortunate end so close to each other. But now she has begun hearing that Ned Stark has picked up where Jon Arryn left off and started looking into things. His altercation with her brother had already complicated things, as now if something were to happen to Lord Stark, the Lannisters would be the first suspect. No, she couldn't simply have him killed. So instead, she considers something more drastic. She never had any love for her husband and shed no tears when he died. Thankfully, that would be easier, as Robert is planning to head out hunting in the Kingswood. Accidents happen while hunting all the time, and it would be much more difficult to pin the blame on her. The only problem is, for some reason, half the realm seems to worship him and would mourn his death. The only question is whether she dares risk it. It would raise eyebrows, and some would still find a way to blame her family, even without evidence. And it might even spook the other Baratheons into action. However, the only problem is her brothers. With Tyrion's kidnapping, her father has been gathering swords to strike at the Riverlands in retaliation for it. Jaime's attack on Ned had only complicated things further, as there are two reasons to target the Lannisters. Even Robert cannot ignore this issue, and may be forced to act. Her thoughts are interrupted by the sound of the doors opening, and at long last, Grandmaster PYcelle shuffles into the room, coughing and shaking as he manages a bow.
My most sincere apologies, Your Grace. The steps are most taxing on my body.
Enough prattle. I have asked you here to explain the situation. What is happening with Ned Stark's investigation?
Your Grace, it appears that his research has hit a dead end. His recent injury has made inquiries difficult. I doubt he suspects anything at the moment.
That was the first good news Cersei had heard all day. If Stannis decides to reveal his findings, he will have no allies to back him, and only the feeble power of Dragonstone to call upon.
And what of his grace, Robert? What does he have to say about the recent events in the Riverlands?
His Grace was most clear with his instructions. Tyrion Lannister must be returned immediately, but he also admits that Tywin Lannister must also demobilize and send his swords home. He says he is not Aerys and will not have rebellion stirring under his feet.
He certainly isn't the Mad King. Even Aerys would not have suffered the arrogance of Lords Stark and Stannis Baratheon.
Certainly not. The Lord Hand and Master of Ships' behavior of late has been most unacceptable. To abandon their post over such matters shows their lack of commitment to their position.
Enough. I brought you here to tell me what I don't know, not what is right in front of me. So are you saying that if my Lord Father does not demobilize his troops, Robert may consider military action?
It is certainly possible.
Cersei curses Tywin for being a fool. His decision to avenge her worthless dwarf of a brother may drag them into war, a war they are not prepared to fight or win. Robert might be a fool, but he knows the dangers of letting bannermen run wild. That settles one matter, though. Robert cannot be allowed to return from his hunting trip, lest their entire house is put in danger. She looks over to PYcelle.
Grandmaster, I know you to be a man of incredible talents and gifts. You have served the realm for many years. I am certain you shall do so again. But I also understand that some things are beyond your ability. And should an accident come to pass, there is no telling what will happen.
Indeed, Your Grace. It is sad to admit, but sometimes a man's life is left only to the seven. A journey to the Kingswood can be perilous, especially when one is injured. There is no telling what kind of state a man may return in.
She smiles and dismisses the old man. And once he is gone, Cersei begins preparing instructions for her young cousin Lancel, who serves as the king's squire. The only thing to do after that is wait. Thankfully, she soon gets her answer when the royal procession returns to King's Landing. But rather than appear in broad daylight, they appear at the crack of dawn, as if to avoid being spotted. The reason for that becomes clear, as her handmaids inform him that the king suffered a serious injury while hunting. Cersei barely hides her laugh as she hears this, but her face soon darkens as more news arrives. Renly Baratheon has fled the city, and Littlefinger arrives with important news. Ned has been named Protector of the Realm. He is to watch over Joffrey and act as his guardian until he comes of age. This throws Cersei in a rage as she summons her allies in a meeting. PYcelle and Littlefinger gather to discuss this news.
Ned Stark, Protector of the Realm. My lord husband has surely gone mad when that boar struck him. Is there some way to deem it null and void? Perhaps Robert was not in his right mind when he made this decision.
It certainly would be possible. The king's injuries were extensive, and I have given him milk of the poppy to dull the pain. I could say he was in no position to be making decrees.
But just because we could does not mean that we must. There is perhaps a benefit from allowing Ned Stark to take this position.
What benefit could there possibly be to allowing a Stark to take the highest position in the land?
The North. Stannis will no doubt grumble about claims and falsehoods, and there is no telling what Renly will do. But Ned Stark will be honor-bound to protect Joffrey, lest he become a usurper. And if there is one thing you can count on from a Stark, it is for them to do what is honorable. Besides, though he may be the protector, Joffrey does not need to listen to him. You are still his mother, after all.
And we are at war with his wife's family.
Your father is at war with them, but all the more reason for you to ally, for the sake of peace. You can promise to halt aggression towards his house, and surely Lord Tywin will be willing to make concessions for the sake of his grandson's rule.
When the time comes for Ned to stand before the court and present Robert's last instructions, he is surprised when Cersei graciously accepts these commands, and even personally welcomes Ned Stark to assist them, saying they are aware of the Northman's reputation and believes he will help steer the realm straight in these troubled times. Ned is stunned by these words, but quickly composes himself and thanks the Queen for showing such grace and accepting Robert's commands. However, he insists that the first order of business is to settle matters in the Riverlands, the raiders who are suspected to be Lannister men. Cersei grits her teeth at the accusation, but bites back her anger and instead forces a smile as she assures Ned that her father will gladly make peace with him and try to smooth over this misunderstanding. Soon enough, peace talks are agreed to. Tywin initially agrees and suggests holding them in the Golden Tooth, but Ned refuses to head to Lannister lands and suggests an alternative, Riverrun. As the conflict is affecting the Riverlands, they must be the ones responsible for helping end it. The logic is simple, and Tywin cannot challenge it. Reluctant, the Lord of Castle Rock makes an appearance in Riverrun, accompanied by his bannermen, though Gregor Clegane is conveniently missing. Those who weren't missing are the affected small folk whom Edmure brought to witness the peace talks, arguing that they are the most affected. It is a power move, intended to highlight Lannister brutality, and Tywin is annoyed by it, but he greets them politely. As they settle in the meeting hall, he sits across from Lord Stark and Edmure Tully. Cersei and Joffrey also take part, sitting in the center of the chamber, though his eyes are on her father as Ned clears his throat.
Lord Tywin, I am pleased that you have agreed to meet with us to discuss the trouble in our border regions, especially now as the Crown undergoes a major transition.
Indeed, and I am also pleased to put certain rumors to rest about the recent events.
And what rumors would that be, Lord Tywin? Are you referring to the destruction your dog wrought on my people? Or do you deny the suffering of those small folk you just saw earlier?
I deny nothing of the sort, Lord Edmure. But there is no proof that these acts were done by me or any of my bannermen. From what I understand, the men who attacked those unfortunate villages were brigands, one who wore no banners.
Brigands wearing castle-forged steel and riding proper war horses. I am yet to see raiders like that. Certainly not raiders led by 7.5-foot giants. And make no mistake, Lord Tywin, I have dealt with my share of raiders in the past.
What weapons they carry and horses they ride do not concern me. It is not proof of my involvement. As for the giant, do I look like a giant to you?
No, but I can think of a certain bannerman of yours, one who recently got in trouble in the Hand's tourney when he attacked Mace Tyrell's son after being defeated.
Who left the capital after that incident?
You refer to Sir Gregor. He certainly matches that description, I'll grant you. But he is not present at the moment, and as I said, there is no proof of his involvement.
Then perhaps you can allow us to find him and question him.
Clearly, you will not let this matter rest. So, allow me to propose. I do not currently know where the mountain is, but if he turns up, I will allow him to be detained and questioned. If he shows up in my lands, you have my word that we shall not allow him to roam freely.
Very well. That is acceptable. But if he is caught raiding here again, then I assume we have leave to execute him. In the meantime, what of those whose lives have already been ruined? They must be allowed to rebuild while we search for these brigands.
If it is gold you wish, then I shall gladly compensate the small folk for this unfortunate tragedy. But only after my son Tyrion is safely back in Castle Rock. I understand he was found innocent of all charges.
You have my word that once I find him, he shall be escorted to safety. But speaking of sons, there is the matter of your eldest, Sir Jaime. He has attacked me in broad daylight and murdered 3 of my men. No doubt to it, and we know for a fact he fled to Castle Rock. Let it not be said I punished a landed knight while letting a lordling evade the law.
That sounds reasonable. My son certainly failed to uphold his vows to the Kingsguard, so I think it is only fair that he be stripped of his white cloak.
To start with, but your son soiled that cloak with the blood of innocent men. Simply taking it off will not cover it. That is not enough. He cannot simply be allowed to slink home and let it be called justice. He attacked a member of the small council. Men have been executed for less.
Men have also been allowed to take the black for worse. Or will you deny that right to my eldest son, as your wife had denied the right of my youngest to defend himself?
Will you allow him to take the black?
I shall.
Edmure and Ned share a look. It was less than they would have hoped, but more than they hoped to achieve. Reluctantly, both of them agree to these terms. They discuss other details, such as how much gold Tywin must pay and what shall be done with Joffrey's coronation, as well as Ned's role. But the meeting ends with Tywin warning that the real issue is the Baratheons, who are yet to acknowledge Joffrey's ascension, and that they may need to prepare to deal with the matter. Ned agrees to that, but assures them that they will try to reason with the Baratheon brothers. As the Lannisters depart, Edmure pulls him aside and asks why he would work with the Lannisters.
To tell you the truth, Sir Edmure, nothing displeases me more than working with them. However, what choice do I have? Joffrey is the lawful heir, and if I am to protect the realm from their influence, I cannot alienate the king. Robert tasked me with steering him straight, and that is the only way I can curb Lannister influence.
Meanwhile, outside, Cersei and Tywin have their conversation.
Handing over Jaime. Surely you do not intend to follow through with that?
Unfortunately, I must. There is no way I can refuse them. That fool made it quite impossible.
You cannot or will not. You fought tooth and nail for the mountain, but will not do the same for your blood.
Sir Gregor did not ride through the streets loudly proclaiming his intentions like your foolish brother. What am I to say to that? It was difficult enough to have him sent to the wall.
So is that it? You hand him over, throw away your legacy. You nearly went to war for the imp, but you gladly send your golden knight to freeze at the edge of the world.
Would you be silent with the hysterics, girl? Yes, I will send Jaime to the war, but I intend to have him recalled at your earliest convenience. We need the Starks for the coming war with the Baratheons. Yet once the war is won, it shall be easy enough to convince Joffrey to pardon Jaime. But until then, I expect you to be silent and know your place.
With this agreement, a tenuous peace is forged between the Lannisters and Starks. Soon enough, Tyrion is found descending the mountains of the moon, accompanied by a small contingent of mountain clansmen who have sworn themselves to his cause. As Ned Stark promises, Tyrion is escorted by his men to Castle Rock, while Jaime is accompanied by Yoren to the Wall. Although the principal terms of the agreement have been met, no one is truly satisfied. Not the Starks, not the Lannisters, and certainly not the Vale or the Riverlands. However, the Knights of the Vale do not act, as Lysa Arryn keeps them back to protect Robert, while the Rivermen remain on high alert, with Edmure keeping a sizable garrison in Riverrun, and orders for the Knights to remain on the border in search of these so-called brigands. Soon enough, Tywin begins to make good his promise of repairing the damage caused by Sir Gregor. Gold and fresh supplies are sent eastward to help them rebuild, while skilled artisans and masons arrive from King's Landing and the rest of the Riverlands to use these materials. Cersei suggests that Joffrey be sent back to the capital while Ned Stark oversees the reconstruction, but he insists the king remain here. As a newly crowned king, it would do him some good to spend time with his people. Surprisingly, Tywin also agrees, as he thinks it would be good for Joffrey to win the favor of the small folk early on. So Joffrey rides into the ruined towns, accompanied by an honor guard of Stark and Lannister men to show their support. There, he takes part in handing out bread, visiting the injured, and helping people move back home. As they work, Ned Stark observes the boy closely. Like in Winterfell, Joffrey initially appears charming and amiable. It is easy to mistake him for the golden-haired prince of fairy tales that everyone loves. He understands how Sansa might be infatuated with him, but at the same time, he sees beyond that. He sees the arrogance in his eyes, how he barely conceals his disgust at having to bump shoulders with the small folk. To him, this is a waste of his time and a simple obligation. That is the problem, and that is what Ned Stark wishes to teach him. He makes it a point to meet with some of the small folk every day and insists that Joffrey join him. Together they sit before their subjects to listen to their plights. Sometimes Edmure accompanies them, and while the two lords are usually sympathetic and offer kind words, coins, or simply a listening ear, Joffrey hardly pays attention.
This is hopeless. The child is more Lannister than Baratheon. We are now bedding our enemies, and you expect him to simply change overnight? I expect no such thing. But he is our lawful king, the only one we have, and I was tasked with preparing him for that responsibility. We leave him, and we allow Tywin to create another monster. We don't need Tywin for him to become another monster. As for your other concern, King Robert has brothers, and Joffrey has siblings, and neither of them is the legitimate heir. We support any of them while Joffrey lives, and we are simply usurpers.
Unfortunately, the choice is not just up to them. As soon enough, there is word that Renly is raising swords in the Stormlands. Worse still, he is also gathering men from Highgarden. Mace Tyrell has not forgotten who nearly killed his youngest son, and how Tywin had failed to punish his bannermen. More importantly, the crown was unable to bring him to justice either. This leaves the Tyrells throwing their lot in with Renly, and they begin raising a massive army. This army splits in two, with one portion under Mace Tyrell that strikes at the Riverlands, and another under Renly that marches through the Stormlands. The Royalist forces are in a difficult position, as so far the only forces they have are under Lord Tywin and Edmure, the Northern Crownland forces, and though word is sent to them to gather their banners, they are still weeks away. A decision is soon made for Tywin to lead his forces into the Stormlands and checks Renly's advance while Ned and Edmure hold Mace's smaller army at bay until reinforcements
Surely we do
can
not
be
need
sent.
to waste any more time on
They
that.
begin setting up defenses
You
across the
shame your
Riverlands,
mother by
aiming
even
to halt the
suggesting
advance
this.
of Mace's army.
He's
At
your
the
uncle.
forefront is a
He
small
bled for
crossing
this
of the Red
realm.
Fork that is created as the front line. This will delay the Tyrell host for a time, but as the soldiers dig trenches and set up barricades, Joffrey surveys the defenses and sees the truth. They're woefully inadequate.
This is madness. We'll be overrun by midday.
It's not just about holding the fjord, it's about buying time. The villagers here are already wary of attacks after the brigand raids, but they will need time to evacuate. Holding this fjord gives them a place to escape. Every hour we hold them back means another family gets away.
We'd be better off focusing on the defenses inland. These people are already lost. Should we truly sacrifice our knights and men-at-arms to save a few peasants?
These small folk are paying the price of your crown with their blood. Do not speak so lightly about them. And if you will not help prepare the defenses, the least you can do is be silent.
Joffrey bites his tongue, clearly unsatisfied, but says no more. And when the battle comes, it's exactly as he predicted. The defenders fight valiantly, but they're overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Edmure himself personally commands these defenses, waving the Tully banner in the air as he cuts down for Reach Knights. It is a brave effort, but the fjord is lost. However, hundreds manage to make it across before that. In the chaos, Edmure is cut off, retreating with a scattered band of rivermen into the woods. His fate is uncertain. In Edmure's absence, Joffrey takes command. While Ned is gathering forces near the Golden Tooth to reinforce them, Joffrey decides to launch a counterattack on the advancing Tyrell vanguard. The skirmishes are small, but aim to impede the Tyrell's progress. Joffrey himself spurs on the Vances, Pipers, Smallwoods, and Mallisters, reminding them that their liege lord is missing because of the Reachmen, and that they must avenge him. The rivermen eagerly rally to Joffrey's banner, fueled by vengeance and fear of Edmure's fate. Joffrey feeds their fury. These riverfolk prove their worth and batter the Reachmen, but the cost is high. Hundreds lose their lives for no real gain. The Tyrells continue to advance, and although they lose men, it hardly slows them down.
Let them taste our steel and show them what it means to challenge the crown.
When Ned hears of the attacks, he rides hard through the night to confront the boy. He finds him near the field tents, basking in hollow victory as soldiers chant his name. Ned storms past the guards and grabs Joffrey by the collar.
I told you not to launch any attacks. Our job is to defend, not to lash out. You disobeyed me.
I saw an opportunity to strike, and I took it. A strong king acts boldly, and that's how we win wars.
Fool. We win wars through patience and strategy, not from you gallivanting around and throwing away lives to feed your pride.
These men attacked the Riverlands, and they attacked my realm, so they attacked me. What was I supposed to do?
Did they? I do not see a mark on you. You want to see who they attacked? Fine. Then come with me.
He marches Joffrey onto the blood-soaked battlefield. Bodies lay strewn in the mud. Nobles, gleaming plate, and barefoot peasants alike. Ned names them as they pass.
That lad there. He was 15. Never held a blade before yesterday. He was supposed to be trained, but you somehow talked Lord Piper into launching an attack on Lord Redwind's column. There, that man. That is Theomere Smallwood. His domain is just a league north of here. Now only his lady wife is left to hold the lands while the Reachmen raid them.
Joffrey trembles now, jaw tight, face pale, but Ned doesn't let him look away. Then comes the worst part. Ned brings him to the refugee tents, where wounded men and mourning families wait for word. He hands Joffrey a parchment.
Names. You ordered the charge. Now you tell their families who won't be coming home. When you are finished, we will inform Lady Smallwood as to what happened to her husband.
Joffrey reads. At first, he stammers. He looks into the eyes of the people, many hollow and sunken, others terrified, some angry. But all of them are helpless. They look to him for support, but all they hear is that their fathers and brothers are not coming home. Before he finishes, Joffrey's voice breaks, not out of fear, but guilt. When it is done, Ned kneels beside him, voice low but firm.
That's the cost of kingship. Every decision you make echoes in screams and silence. Remember it. If you think you can sit atop your throne and believe that your actions do not have consequences, remember this moment.
For the first time, Joffrey doesn't argue. He just nods and stares at the sunrise through tear-reddened eyes. During the rest of the campaign, Joffrey does not take any more independent action. He instead listens and learns. When Ned takes him to visit small folk, he does not disarm them, but instead truly tries to understand them. During meetings, he listens to what the lords suggest and asks questions about it. They focus more on fighting a defensive war, checking the Tyrell advance and launching guerrilla strikes beyond their lines as they overextend themselves. That is, until one day they receive word that the Northmen have arrived. 12,000 fresh soldiers under the command of Robb Stark cross the Neck and join his father in Riverrun. Only then do they feel comfortable enough to launch a counterattack as the Tyrells pushed across the Red Fork and strike into the center of the Riverlands. When they see Ned, many of his bannermen greet him as an old friend, laughing and sharing tales of the happenings in the north, while Ned regards them with kindness. And yet, these big men from houses Karstark and Umber and Glover talk to him with the utmost respect. Even the savage-looking clansmen treat Ned with courtesy. This time, the assembled rivermen and the Starks meet them in battle. They stand right in the front of the Red Fork and dig in as the first Reachman cavalry hits them. They batter their lines, but the grizzled and experienced driver folk hold. They crouch behind tall shields with wooden stakes in front of them. As the advance halts, they rush forward and work to drive them back. The same is true in the Northmen's flank, where huge men bearing great swords and axes run alongside the cavalry, helping drag down Reachmen and hack them to pieces. Ned and the Blackfish do a great job here, but the center is where trouble arises, and the Reachmen's numerical superiority is clear in display as they advance, cutting through the royal foot despite Lord Blackwood's efforts to rally them. Though they hold for a time, it is clear their lines will break. Seeing this, Joffrey gallops forwards and raises his sword. He remains in the back, away from the danger, but his armor and the lion stag banner behind him flutters proudly as Joffrey raises his sword in the air.
Men of the Riverlands and the North, this is not just for the crown, but your homes as well. If we falter here, the Reachmen shall spread across the entire Riverlands. Hold firm and resist.
Though he remains right outside of arrow range, Joffrey stands right against the front lines, and many soldiers see him. Their eyes widen at the sight of the golden-haired prince galloping alongside them. Suddenly, they feel a fresh burst of energy as the front reorganizes. This buys enough time for Ned and the Blackfish to crush the Reach flanks and roll up the center, forcing them to retreat. By the end of the battle, Ned rides up to Joffrey. For once, he is smiling at him as he nods his head.
You disobeyed me again. I told you to stay away from the front lines.
They needed me.
Indeed they did. You're learning, Your Grace.
He ruffles Joffrey's hair and feels a surge of pride. But as the Reachmen retreat, they suddenly come under attack by bands of riverfolk. These are small, numbering a few hundred, but their commander is a man in plate armor and wearing the sigil of House Tully. Edmure harries the army across the entire retreat, even capturing Lord Fossaway in the chaos after trying to chase down Mace. When he retreats to River Run, he explains how his band was rescued by a group of small folk who had escaped the carnage and hid them. They took them from village to village, dodging the Tyrell's patrols. They did this because they knew it was Edmure who ordered the rivermen to hold the fjord. Joffrey listens to this in awe. He sees how the love that Ned and Edmure can inspire in their people, and for the first time, realizes that perhaps fear isn't the only way to motivate people. While Ned and Joffrey succeed in the Riverlands, Tywin Lannister's campaign in the south gathers brutal momentum. After raising fresh troops from the Crownlands, Tywin pushes hard into the Stormlands, outnumbered but unyielding. Renly commands the larger force, but the Old Lion fights with decades of experience and none of Robert's mercy. He uses Sir Amory Lorch and Vargo Hoat to raid and burn towns loyal to Renly, spreading terror, not just death. With Sir Gregor away, Tywin must rely on these other tools for success. Villages are torched, food stores are stolen or destroyed, lords who resist are publicly executed or hanged from the ramparts. Several smaller Stormlords, House Morrigan, House Grandison, and even Penrose, bend the knee to survive. Yet Renly's forces remain considerable, and he makes use of them well in a series of brutal battles, each one aiming to crush the Old Lion outright and claim victory. The fighting is harsh, both sides lose many men, but Tywin does not break or balk at the losses. He continues to advance, offering no quarter and slowly pushing Renly back. Though he takes heavy losses and loses some of his best bannermen, he still manages to outmaneuver Renly and drive him back to Storm's End. The success of the Starks and Tullys in the Riverlands only adds further pressure as some of the Reachmen hurry to defend their homes, stripping Renly of his massive army. Every day his troops grow smaller, making it harder to directly challenge Tywin. Renly decides to gamble everything in one massive battle on the shores of Shipbreaker Bay. Their forces clash along the shores, soon leaving the sea running with blood. At the center is Randyll Tarly, who commands Renly's infantry, while Loras tries to sweep into Tywin's flank with an overloaded force of Reachmen and Stormlander cavalry. In many ways, he's trying to repeat what the Starks did in the Battle of the Red Fork. But they do not have a king to rally their center, though Tywin does have the brave companions. Armed with additional brigands and savages, he sends them alongside a fresh wave of troops in the center. Rather than joining the fighting, they are tasked with hunting down the commander of the center and killing him. Their cavalry rides hard and rushes Randyll Tarly. The Lord of Hornhill does not go down easily, killing a dozen of them as his guards close in. By the end, the brave companions kill him, and the center collapses. Pushed back to Storm's End with a battered force, Renly swallows his pride and sends a raven to Dragonstone. His words are simple. If we do not stand together, we will burn apart. Stannis arrives weeks later, grim as ever, with the lean host of his own. They speak behind closed doors for hours. At last, an agreement is struck. Renly remains Lord of Storm's End, named Stannis' heir should he fall without issue. Stannis assumes command of the united forces, bringing with him not just men, but a plan. He abandons set-piece battles for guerrilla warfare. Using the broken terrain of the Stormlands, he launches night raids, forest ambushes, and supply line disruptions. Tywin's advance slows, then it stalls, then it bleeds. But Stannis has more than blades. He has truth. In a speech at Rainhouse, Stannis publicly accuses Joffrey of being born of incest. He names Jaime Lannister as the true father, and Cersei as a false queen.
The throne has no heir, only a shadow that wears a stolen crown. Before he died, I had assisted Jon Arryn in an investigation of Joffrey's parentage. From there, I have learned that he is not the son of my brother Robert, but of Cersei and Jaime Lannister.
Soon enough, he has these claims read aloud across every inn, alehouse, and brothel in the Seven Kingdoms. The claim spreads like wildfire across war-torn kingdoms. Some laugh it off, others curse them for being usurpers, and many simply don't care. A few desert Tywin's army outright. Even within Tywin's court, cracks begin to form. Lords who once followed out of fear or honor now wonder if they are backing a lie. Tywin dismisses it outright, calling it the desperate madness of a failed pretender. He points out that if it were true, why had Stannis waited so long before revealing it? Why is it that now, when Sir Jaime cannot defend himself, does he bring it out? But his tone is tight, and his bannermen are less confident. In the Riverlands, Ned hears the rumors and begins to question everything. He stares at Joffrey one evening, at the golden curls, the jawline so unlike Robert's. He says nothing, but the silence between them grows colder.
You think it might be true?
Ned doesn't answer. Despite Tywin's initial victories, Stannis' tactics grind his forces down. Supply shortages, ambushes, and desertion cripple the Lannister advance. But his numbers are few. He has a few thousand men at most, and even the Reach is reluctant to continue supporting them when their lands are under threat. Tywin is forced to withdraw back toward the Crownlands, but leaves garrisons at critical points. Only the Stormlands remain defiant, and Renly, unwilling to simply wait behind walls, departs across the narrow sea, hoping to raise aid, gold, and perhaps even sellsword companies in Essos. Yet soon enough, this becomes little more than an isolated threat, as they lacked the strength to challenge the crown directly, and peace settled on the realm. A fragile peace, but peace nonetheless. However, all of this hinges upon the continued alliance of the Starks and Lannisters, but that proves to be more difficult than expected. Both sides now have different ideas of what to do after the war. Seeing the devastation in the Seven Kingdoms, Ned suggests a simpler and quieter court without too much spending. In contrast, the Lannisters urge the crown to operate as if nothing had happened. It is to show strength and that they have nothing to fear. But that isn't the only place they run into conflict. Cersei also suggests canceling Joffrey's marriage to Sansa. As the protector of the realm, it would not be right for people to assume that Ned was trying to jockey for the throne. Ned insists on continuing to tutor Joffrey, as he did on campaign, but Cersei is troubled by some of the things he made Joffrey do, like staring at the dead. She accuses Ned of trying to traumatize the king and insists that Tywin take over, as he is a far more experienced statesman. With most of the small council on Tywin's side, Ned must concede. However, Joffrey doesn't forget Ned. He still recalls the stern but understanding man who guided him through the war, showing him how to command troops and inspire people. He recalls the pride in Ned's voice after the Battle of the Red Fork and continues to visit him. While not official lessons, Ned takes him riding or walking through the city, where they discuss the matters of the realm. Ned still dines with some low-born members of the capital and sometimes invites Joffrey to partake in them. Although Joffrey seems to enjoy himself, one thing hangs over the meetings and puts a damper on things: the issue of his parentage. It becomes so serious that a small council meeting is called. All of them agree that they cannot leave this matter unanswered, but have different ideas. The Red Keep's solar is colder than usual, despite the summer sun pouring through its windows. Ned Stark stands near the hearth, arms crossed, his gray cloak dusted with travel from the small council meeting. Across from him, Lord Tywin Lannister sits stiffly, flanked by Kevan and Grandmaster PYcelle. Cersei leans against the window, her face unreadable, lips drawn tight.
These are rumors started by usurpers. Usurpers with barely an army, and who have turned into robber knights. Surely we do not need to waste any more time on them.
These usurpers are the king's own brothers, and have the words of Jon Arryn. An investigation was conducted, and we cannot simply dismiss that.
Why not? They claim to have investigated, but what proof do they have? That Joffrey does not have the same hair as one of Robert's bastards? We should deny it, as often as necessary. But beyond that, I see no reason to lose sleep over it.
And who will take that at face value? Anyone in your situation would deny it. Without proof, then your words are wind.
Joffrey sits at the head of the table, golden-haired and newly taller, his fingers drumming the carved lionwood armrest of the royal seat.
So you intend to take these threats seriously?
I am merely suggesting an investigation, Lord Tywin, to address each point made and find evidence to disprove it. If there is nothing amiss, then we should have nothing to hide.
Enough. That is where you are mistaken, Lord Stark. The more we look into these rumors, the more power we give them. I will not bend over and act as if these are anything more than desperate claims by desperate men.
Hang on a moment. If Lord Stark says there is nothing to hide, why not simply get it over with?
Because it is a waste of time, Your Grace. These accusations target you, and the minute you give them legitimacy, your enemies will pounce on you.
You shame your mother by even suggesting this.
But
This matter is not up for debate.
The rest of the small council departs, save for Ned, who notices Joffrey looking down at the table, his knuckles gripping the corner.
Are you worried, my boy?
I've asked them before about it. Each time they only deny and grow angrier. They say these denials are for the commoners, but I'm starting to believe it's for myself as well.
Not just for you. For Cersei. For Tywin.
So you believe it then?
I'm not certain, Your Grace. And neither is most of the realm. That is why I believe an investigation is necessary.
If it is true, then I am a monster.
No, you are not, Your Grace. You are the only one blameless in this situation.
But I'm no king if it is true.
I admit, I did not hold you in high regard before. I doubted whether I could steer you right, but I see the man who has risen to the challenge of the crown. King or no king, I am proud to serve you as your Lord Protector, and I will fight for the truth.
To their surprise, the Lannisters soon change their tone about a trial. They offer to support it, but under one condition: that Jaime be recalled from the Night's Watch and be allowed to defend his name. They point out that he is the one who is to be most affected by it, and should therefore be allowed to speak his part. Meanwhile, Ned argues that Jaime has taken his vows, and that means his crimes are washed away.
You would break his vow to the Watch for theater?
Our crown's strength lies in perception. The truth is what we say it is.
Or it lies in justice, in truth. That holds even when it hurts. You want to answer these rumors, then do it honorably, not with bribes or force, or dragging oaths into the dirt. What do you say, Your Grace?
Sir Jaime is a man of the Night's Watch. His crimes are washed away when he took his oath. I see no reason to make him face them again.
He's your uncle. He bled for this realm.
So has Lord Stark. So have hundreds of others who asked for nothing in return. The crown will not violate the vows of the Night's Watch. Sir Jaime will not be recalled.
Cersei's mouth hangs open in shock. Tywin's face darkens. Kevin looks away.
You've made your decision then. Pray it was not your last.
Soon enough, the Lannisters get their revenge. They claim that there have been flare-ups in the Stormlands from rebels, and that Ned is needed south to put it down. He sees it for what it is, an exile to make sure that he does not cause any more trouble in the capital. And yet, Ned takes it with dignity, marching off with his army and reminding Joffrey of what they are fighting for. He rides off and begins to confront Stannis, but once again, the wily Lord of Dragonstone disappears into the dense forests, leaving behind only corpses of those who pursue him. But Ned is not foolish enough to chase after him. Instead, he turns his attention to winning hearts and minds. He knows that Stannis relies on the support of the people, on the Stormlanders who never trusted the Lannisters, so he turns his attention to them. Ned goes from village to village, hearing their plights and understanding their needs. He takes these matters to the crown, where Joffrey sees them done. At the same time, he leverages his reputation as Robert's closest friend and the one who was selected as protector of the realm. Seeing him standing there, protecting the realm, slowly wins him more allies, and the support Stannis has begins to bleed away. Small folk no longer shelter his knights, no longer smuggle his food, or allow his ships to dock. This lets Ned push deeper and begin taking territory from them. For the moment, it seems like Ned will at last break this rebellion, but then the ships arrive. Dozens of them from the Far East. They are war galleys and transports bearing an army, and upon their sails is the crowned stag. But it does not fly alone. Beside it is the dragon of House Targaryen. But the dragons are not only on the sails. Through the forests of those sails, 3 shapes appear. Dragons whose roar resounds across Westeros for the first time in over 100 years, and with them comes fire. Stannis' men loose signal arrows, and the fire comes down upon Ned's position. His army scatters, and he is thrown from his horse. When the battle is over, he is dragged before Stannis and taken prisoner to Storm's End, just as the Targaryen army arrives. The arrival of dragons sends shockwaves across the realm. Though Tywin tries to assert control over the situation, for the first time there is something people fear more than him, as he calls the 7 kingdoms to war. Only the Westerlands, Riverlands, North, and the remnants of the Reach answer. The Vale, Dorne, and the Stormlands all rise in support of Queen Daenerys. None of these regions has any love for the Lannisters, and now it sees it as their opportunity to rise and take revenge on the wrongs the house has inflicted upon them. This stiffens Daenerys' force of freedmen and unsullied. She had come under the request of Lord Renly, and was enticed by the promise of a marriage pact. While Stannis would remain king, the two would succeed him. With this army, they begin to lay waste to the Seven Kingdoms. Across the golden fields of the Reach, fire rains down on them as dragons herald Dany's arrival. They are followed by bands of sellswords and scores of freedmen and unsullied. The Dornish follow after, stripping the land bare while the Stormlanders push to King's Landing. From the Vale, the knights spill onto the Riverlands. Tywin responds with speed and aggression. His army hurries to reinforce King's Landing while Edmure and the Blackfish deal with the attacking Valemen, and the Northmen are called upon to reinforce the Reach. The battles that follow are brutal and leave the Seven Kingdoms soaking in blood. But had it just been battles, then perhaps the Lannisters might have prevailed. However, as they look upon the skies, they see dragons raining down fire, burning the defenses they prepare, and scattering armies wherever they go. The pride of the Reach breaks before them, allowing Dorne and the Stormlands to bring it to heel and letting them push into the Riverlands. But just as they begin their advance, the Northmen arrive. Thousands of them, that Joffrey personally greets out of respect for Ned Stark.
I have come not as your king, but as a boy who loves Ned Stark as you all do. This man had given everything for the realm, and now languishes in prison. I will not allow this injustice to continue.
Around him, the Northmen cheer and raise their axes. Joffrey rides alongside them into the Reach, launching a desperate counteroffensive to halt the dragon's advance. This time, there is no performance in his voice, simple fury. He misses Ned as much as any of them, and seeing the usurpers all gathered together leaves his blood boiling. But for all their bravery, they cannot withstand the fire that Daenerys brings. The smell of burned leather and charred flesh still clings to Joffrey's cloak when he rides back through the gates of King's Landing. The city is quiet, not the usual hum of gossip and beggars, but something heavier. Dread. His army has been broken along the borders of the Riverland. The dragons descend like living storms. One moment the sky was blue, and the next it was fire. Joffrey survived. Many did not. The only thing that saved the army was Robb Stark's quick thinking, as he waged a desperate guerrilla war to buy them as much time as they can. He says nothing as he dismounts. The gold of his armor is scorched black, the antlers of his crown bent from a near miss. He brushes aside his steward's approach and marches through the Red Keep alone, ignoring the nobles who whisper as he passes. Even the guards do not meet his eye. He does not return to the royal chamber. He goes to the council room. Tyrion is already there. He's waiting, wine in hand, as if he knew.
You've returned. That's good. I'd hate to see the throne go to Tommen. He's a sweet boy, but too soft for war.
We're losing.
There's the bluntness I missed. Yes, we are. Dragons will do that.
Joffrey sits. His hands tremble, not with fear, but with something worse. Restraint. Tyrion is surprised to see that, but leans in closer.
They've taken Ned Stark. My men burn. The realm is split, and the crown is cracking beneath me. And all my advisors tell me to strike again. Bleed the Riverlands. Burn the Stormlands. Force Dorne to submit.
And why haven't you?
Because it won't solve anything. And it isn't what Lord Stark would do. I remember what he told me in the Riverlands. I wanted revenge. I wanted to kill every Reachman. He said I was acting like a butcher, not a king. The people don't need blood. They need justice.
My boy, I dare say that sounds wise coming from you. And I do suspect a hint of affection in your voice. I never thought I'd see the day. However, if justice is what you wish to serve, you may not like the answer.
I'm listening.
They hate our family. That is the one thing that binds them together. The Martells hate us for murdering Elia, the Arryns for Jon Arryn, the Targaryens for the Mad King, and the Baratheons for stealing their throne. You see, there is only one way they will be satisfied. Our heads on spikes.
That night, a royal summons is sent to every corner of the capital. Nobles, knights, priests, and lords are called to the throne room under torchlight. When the door opens, King Joffrey sits atop the Iron Throne. The hall is packed, but he commands it with silence. Cersei is not present. Tywin stands beneath the dais, regal as ever, his expression unreadable. Then, the king speaks.
The realm is in flames. Dragons fly again. Houses rise in rebellion not just against me, but against everything my name represents. The Lannister name. They say my rule is built on lies, that justice has never touched this throne, that I am not fit to wear my crown.
He lets the words hang. Tyrion stands off to the side, silent.
Then let justice begin with me.
Shallow gasps of curiosity ripple through the hall.
I, Joffrey Baratheon, King of the Andals and the First Men, do hereby order the arrest of Lord Tywin Lannister for crimes against the realm, treason, conspiracy, and the murder of Elia Martell. I order the arrest of Gregor Clegane for raiding across the Riverlands, and the murder of Rhaegar's family.
Even Tywin blinks. The chamber erupts.
Furthermore, I order the detainment of Cersei Lannister, pending investigation into the death of Lord Jon Arryn and other accusations of high treason.
Panic. Outrage. PYcelle collapses. Kevin shouts. The hall descends into chaos. But Joffrey stands. He does not flinch, but they are outnumbered. Joffrey had made sure not to call just Westermen. He calls Riverfolk, Northmen, and a few loyal Stormlanders. They all rush forward, supporting the guards who escort the Lannisters away, while their guardsmen are disarmed. By morning, ravens fly across Westeros. The word spreads faster than wildfire. The lion has been caged. The queen has been silenced. The mountain is being hunted. All by the boy king. In exchange, all he asks for is peace, and for the great houses to accept his deepest apologies. In Dorne, Princess Arianna reads the missive twice. Then she burns it and tells her father and uncle.
Condemned by their own blood, it is even better than dragonfire.
In the Vale, young Lord Robin's regents read the list of crimes perpetrated against Jon Arryn.
Seems like there is still a lion on the throne.
In the Stormlands, Renly's banner is still raised high, but for the first time, he sees hesitation in the eyes of his bannermen. Though the Dornish and Valemen do not immediately pull out their forces, there is now hesitation. There is confusion and questions about whether they must truly fight. And in that chaos, Joffrey strikes. The Lannisters, under Sir Adam, renew their offensive in the Stormlands, while the Hound brings reinforcements to the Starks and begins pushing into the Reach. With half their army questioning the purpose of this war, the Baratheons falter. Even Daenerys, seated at Storm's End, stares at the message with narrowed eyes. Her dragons roar in the courtyard behind her.
You said he was a mad child.
He was. Perhaps now he's something else.
And then a raven arrives from King's Landing, offering to discuss terms. With their offensive stalling and the dragons unable to be everywhere, Daenerys agrees to meet in Storm's End under the condition that Ned Stark be allowed to participate. Soon, Joffrey, Ned, Tyrion, and Edmure stand on one end of the castle, while Oberyn, Renly, Stannis, and Daenerys are on the other, and the terms are read out.
And in exchange for peace, we shall execute Cersei and Tywin Lannister for their crimes against the Vale and Dorne. We may even let them handle the execution, if they wish. I will also restore Lord Stannis and Renly to their original titles and positions in the small council. As for you, Queen Daenerys, I offer you a marriage pact between you and me.
Is this some sort of joke? I am to wed Prince Renly, and Stannis is ruler of the Seven Kingdoms.
Oh, my dear. My nephew is doing you a favor. You will find a marriage with Renly rather unstimulating. Is it truly wise to insult those you wish to make peace with? I am still the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Joffrey is a child of incest. If incest is something you are concerned about, then you should look at the woman beside you. If I recall, weren't your parents brother and sister as well? Tell me, do we call you mad for that? His parents' crimes are not his to bear. It does not make him heir either. The realm must be united with truth. His rule shall be born from lies, from deceptions.
That is why I offer this marriage. If there are wrongs, let them be corrected. Let us unite the realm and fix the damage. Stark, Lannister, Baratheon, and Targaryen. If not, then we will leave the Seven Kingdoms drowning in blood.
Lord Stannis, you've long said you do not want the throne, but it is your duty. Then let it be your duty to end this war and to usher in a new ruler, one who will listen to your wisdom. And Lord Renly, your people have suffered in this war, and they will continue to suffer until peace is established. Let us bring an end to this senseless violence.
I knew that boy to be a monster.
Do I look like a monster now?
He stares at his two uncles, who look and see him. For the first time, they see not the hatred and arrogance of Joffrey before, but an older and more mature prince, one whom Robert might have been proud of. They turn to Daenerys and lower their heads.
There might be some wisdom here in this proposal.
Soon enough, these terms are accepted, and the war finally comes to an end. Tywin and Cersei are executed, while Oberyn and the Hound hunt down the mountain. Meanwhile, Joffrey marries Daenerys, and they combine their two courts, creating a new small council as they work to begin creating a better realm. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.